Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Lost and Cancelled Nintendo Games Iceberg. I'm certain that you should understand the rules by now, but if you don't, why not check out my last video on the tip of the iceberg, where I explain how these types of videos work.
Cancelled Nintendo Games Iceberg Explained. Part 2. Below the surface and bottom of the iceberg.
Well, without much further ado, let's start with part 2 of the Lost and Cancelled Nintendo Games Iceberg, where we search below the surface and at the bottom of the iceberg.
12 Tales Conker 64.
Starting below the surface, we have 12 Tales Conker 64. 12 Tales Conker 64 is a cancelled video game that was going to be released for the Nintendo 64. First announced as Conker's Quest at E3 1997, the game would have followed the same style as Conker's Pocket Tales, a handheld title released during its prolonged development cycle. Before the game could be finished, however, Rare had already made similar games that had already achieved general acclaim, most notably Banjo-Kazooie and Diddy Kong Racing. The developers began to receive criticism for creating another innocent platformer starring cute and friendly animals. In 1999, Rareware revealed that they were going to entirely redesign the game to appeal to an older audience. While it was first believed to be an April Fool's joke, the game went unreleased and replaced with Conker's Bad Fur Day in 2001. The game released in its stead was rated M and gave Conker's World a more adult tone.
Super Paper Mario for the GameCube.
Super Paper Mario was announced on May 11th, 2006 through an official trailer at E3 of the same year as a GameCube title with a release date in the fourth quarter of 2006. Super Paper Mario was set to be one of the last first-party titles for the GameCube, but it was silently moved to Nintendo's newer Wii platform in the middle of 2006, with a release date of April 2007 eventually being confirmed. The planned GameCube release never materialized, but was never officially cancelled. To this day, the GameCube version of the game is still hidden to the public.
Donkey Kong Racing.
Donkey Kong Racing was a cancelled Donkey Kong racing game for the Nintendo GameCube, which would have served as a loose follow-up to Diddy Kong Racing. The game was first announced at E3 2001 with a pre-rendered trailer showing the game's concept. However, the trailer and the press release, which stated that the game was set for release in 2002, made in anticipation of Space World 2001, ended up being the only media shown to the public. Donkey Kong Racing and Rare's other titles from E3 2001 were either privately cancelled, put on hold, or ported to the Xbox or Xbox 360. After the buyout, the game was heavily reworked as Saberman Stampede, which was planned for an Xbox 360 release. However, this iteration also ended up being cancelled.
Fire Emblem 64.
Fire Emblem 64 is a cancelled and unreleased Fire Emblem series project, which was intended to be released for the Nintendo 64. It was most likely planned for the Nintendo 64 DD or disk drive, an expansion device to the base 64 console allowing the use of disk storage media. Little is known about the project, as it was only mentioned a few times in interviews. Very few details have been released, most being overall concepts rather than specific details about the game's plot or mechanics. The book, The Making of Fire Emblem 25th Anniversary Development Secrets, contains concept artworks and some dialogue samples. Other than this, there is little to no information about this game.
Many games for the Virtual Boy.
The Virtual Boy was originally announced with a plethora of games to support it. However, many of these games were cancelled due to the relative failure of the Virtual Boy in Japan. Whilst the 3D was impressive for the time, the console was a strange shape and not very ergonomic, and many reported the 3D effect not working for them at all. This resulted in low sales for the device, and the very limited library of games from what was announced. These unreleased announced games included Mario Land, Mario Kart, Starfox, Donkey Kong Country, and Bomberman. Unfortunately, there is little information about these games available, apart from some footage and production info from Nintendo. It was suggested that Nintendo would release some of its Virtual Boy library for the 3DS, as it could utilize its glasses-free 3D. However, this did not happen, and there is little hope of these games being released again in any official capacity.
Bottom of the iceberg. Super Mario Strikers.
Just a heads up, as we go further down the iceberg, there is a lot less information to be found. Now, for the first item on the bottom of the iceberg, we have Super Mario Spikers. Super Mario Spikers is the name of the cancelled volleyball wrestling hybrid game that was developed by Next Level Games, the same studio that created Super Mario Strikers for the Nintendo GameCube, and Mario Strikers Charged for the Wii. Initially going under the working title Mario Volleyball, concepts for the new Mario Sports projects were being worked on by Next Level in 2006. When Next Level pitched the concept to Nintendo, they rejected it due to the game's violence clashing with Nintendo's Code of Honor, whatever that means.
Super Mario's Wacky Worlds.
Super Mario's Wacky Worlds is a cancelled Mario platforming game developed by Nova Logic for the Philips CDI system. The game was conceived as a sequel to Super Mario World. An early prototype received positive feedback from Nintendo, but the game was soon cancelled due to the declining sales of the Philips CDI system. While not much is known about the game, there are 3 prototype copies known to be in circulation, although where those copies are is currently unknown.
Kid Kirby.
Kid Kirby is a cancelled title in the Kirby series that was set to be released on the SNES. It was set to be developed by DMA Design, a Scottish company which eventually evolved into Rockstar North, known for a little game series called Grand Theft Auto. Despite this, very little is known about Kid Kirby. The first and only hint of the title's development was a picture of Kirby with the title Kid Kirby at the bottom right corner of page 47 of a Mexican Club Nintendo magazine issued in 1995. Because of this, it was assumed that the title did not get very far into development before being cancelled.
The Legend of Zelda. Mystical Seed of Courage.
The Legend of Zelda, Mystical Seed of Courage, was originally designed to be a sequel to both Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages, where it is assumed that the third Oracle would have been a key part of the game. Mystical Seed of Courage was supposed to be released several months after its prequels arrived on the shelf. It was eventually cancelled due to the issues involving how the games connected to each other, which would have inflated development time into a time frame where the already aging Game Boy Color would have become redundant. The project was soon scrapped, but there is hope for it to be reworked and re-released in a remastered form.
The California Raisins. Grape Escape.
The California Raisins, The Grape Escape, is a California Raisins video game developed by Radiance for the NES. The game was a fairly basic side-scrolling platformer for the era, where you would play as the titular California Raisins on their raisin-based adventures. Capcom planned to publish the game in 1990, but its release was cancelled due to the California Raisins dwindling in popularity. The game appeared to be largely finished, as it was given a full review, along with hints by the Game Player's Encyclopedia of Nintendo Games Volume 3. On January 21st, 2003, a prototype cartridge was found in Florida. The cart was later sold to a collector who released the ROM of the game onto the internet. The game can now be played through in its entirety. Well, that's all we have for this episode. Let me know in the comments below if there's anything that I missed, and be sure to tune in again next time, in the finale, where I take another look back at the cancelled Nintendo Games Iceberg.